what is your information about what is happening in the aftermath around that dam? And is it continuing to happen? Is it going to get worse?
So first, I would like to set straight the facts about what has happened.
Mm.
Russia has been controlling the dam since it occupied parts of Kherson Oblast in the city, and it just did not collapse. It was detonated by the dozens of tons of explosives. It's an intentional act of ecocide, some people call it, and it's actually use of nature in military purposes, because Russian armed forces are, to be honest, desperate and are failing to achieve their objectives on the battlefield and are fearful of what may come their way from Ukrainian armed forces after all the training and re-equipment during this period of spring. So it is a horrific disaster. Some people equated to the consequences of Chernobyl nuclear explosion in 1986. The size of the dam was almost 9-storied building. It's one of the largest dams in Europe and one of the several on the Dnipro River that forms the network of hydropower stations. So Europe, the Black Sea, the Mediterranean will be dealing with the environmental disaster because of the fresh water flowing into the Black Sea, which will change the ecosystem, because of all the oils and other chemical products that were stored in the reservoir. The cities around will be impacted to a large degree by, of course, horrible flooding, but also lack of drinking water.
Okay. And what about that's the long term, which is very important. What about the short term as well? What do we know about the people whose houses are underwater now?
So the villages and small cities along the Kakhovka Dam knew actually that there's a possibility of that. This is not a surprise and shouldn't have been, to be honest, a surprise to anybody. Russians were contemplating this possibility, as I said, last September when Ukrainians took over Kherson. So to the good news is that a lot of people already left the area. The problem is actually more on the Russian occupied side, where Russians, by exploding it, also flooded more actually on the east side of the bank, where they had their military positions. And the villagers, they are not getting any help from emergency services, from anybody to evacuate, because they just abandoned the area. And that's why President Zelensky was calling on United Nations, on the Red Cross, to actually get access to those areas where Ukrainians have no access.
Do you think that Russia will consider more carefully next time these kind of operations because of the impact it's having on their side?
I actually have a bad news, because I think the more it is clear for Russian senior leadership that they cannot win this war, they will embark on even more desperate solutions. I think one of the reasons why they decided to do it is that Putin is replaying in his head Second World War. The Soviet army did it in 1941 when the Germans were invading Soviet Union, exactly the same explosion, and actually 20,000 Soviet troops died as the result of that effect. So I think the closer the end of the empire, the craziest are its actions. That comes from the ancient Roman wisdom. So this is, I think, what awaits Europe.
And if you like that,
you can listen to us.
We're Stig and Asma. Have you forgotten?
Well done. Every Monday to Thursday on Times Radio Breakfast.